Hi, this is Chris Converse, and in this episode, we'll add a little extra interactivity to our hyperlinks by adding a second nested hover state. This technique can add a little extra information or interest for people who are exploring your web page with a mouse or a trackpad, without changing the behavior of these links on touch devices. So if you'd like to follow along with me, download the exercise files, and let's begin by opening the index.html file in a text editor. And then once you have your index file opened up in a text editor, we can see inside of here we have a main element, and then inside of the main element we have 3 anchor links. Each anchor tag has a class of landmark, and inside of the anchor tag we have an image that points to the landmark JPEG file, and then we have a span that has the name of the landmark, and then in an emphasis tag the location of that landmark in the city. And we have the same markup for each one of the anchor links. And before we continue, I'll come over here and preview this page in a browser. So we can see down here we have our hyperlinks with our span element and the name of the landmark and the location. And now to add our hover states, we're going to go into the CSS file. So let's go back to the exercise files. Let's open up style.css in our text editor. And then once we have the CSS file open, let's scroll down to the bottom. The last rule I have here is a.landmark with a greater than sign, which means we're targeting the span that is an immediate child of the anchor link. And then we're targeting the emphasis tag. This is how we're getting the italic styling here. Let's come in here and change the display type from block to none. If we save our work, go back to the browser, we'll now see we can just simply see the titles. We're going to show the locations on a hover state. So now back in the CSS, let's hit a few returns, and let's first target the main anchor link and change the color of the border. So we'll start with a.landmark, colon, hover, hit a space, put in our brackets, and we're going to come in here and change border color, so border-color. We're going to set this to £. We'll type in 9C for red, 90 for green, and 53 for blue, then a semicolon. If we go over to the browser and preview this, we'll now see that we have a border color change on all of the anchor links. Now we're going to target the span element inside of the anchor link. We're going to make the background a little bit darker here just to make those labels pop a little bit more. So again, back to the CSS. Let's come in here and copy the a.landmark hover. Let's paste it down here, then add a space. Then we'll add our greater than sign, then span, put in our brackets. Then we'll set the background color property to black, which is £, and 0 for red, green, and blue, then a semicolon. So now in addition to the border color, we also see that the span element now has a solid black background when we hover. So now at this point we want to create a nested hover state so that if somebody rolls over the span, which is inside of the anchor tag, we'll show the location as well. So back to our CSS file, let's come in here and select this rule. Let's copy this, paste it on the next line. Now we'll add the hover pseudo class to the span as well. Then a space, then we're going to target the emphasis tag inside the span, put in our brackets, and then we'll come in here and set the display type back to block. Now if you remember from before we hid the emphasis tag, we had the display type here set to block. So we're going to reset it back to block here, but only if somebody is hovering over the span element while they're hovering over the anchor tag. So with all of these in place, let's save our CSS. Let's go back to the browser. We can hover over these. We see the border change and the background of the span. And then if I come down here and hover over the span elements, we'll see that extra information that we put inside of the emphasis tag. So now we were able to add even more information to our hyperlinks, which users can access by simply moving their cursor over the links. Now while this technique can create a compelling user experience, keep in mind that touch devices don't have hover states. So be sure that any extra information that you supply in a hover state isn't critical for the navigation of your site. And so with that, I'll conclude this episode. And as always, thanks for watching.